Little review. Yesterday we learned about diabetes a little bit. That was one of the things we learned about. Diabetes. We learned about diabetes. And anyway, we said that, well, first of all, you need to really remember what diabetes is, because chances are at some point in either your future or someone close to you is going to get diabetes. All diabetes is, big picture, is basically when you can't control, when your body is not able to control the amount of sugar in your blood. Seems simple enough, the amount of sugar in your blood. So, like everything else in your body, you need to have some set level. In this case, you have to have a set level of sugar in your blood. Too much is bad, too little is bad. Okay? Remember, you need sugar. Your cells of your body need sugar. So that's why you even have to have sugar to begin with, because every cell in your body needs sugar, needs glucose in order to perform cell respiration to make ATP. Okay, that's the whole reason we need sugar to begin with. If you have too much sugar, though, in your blood, we said that causes some complications. Mostly what happens is that your blood vessels, which contain your blood, if there's too much sugar in there, too much water will then rush in because of osmosis, and it'll swell up those blood vessels, putting way too much pressure on those blood vessels. High blood pressure. Okay? Okay, well, if there's too much pressure on your vessels, they burst. They break. They're not strong anymore. Okay? That's not good either. So you start to feel the effects of long-term diabetes when your vessels just can't withstand, they're broken. A lot of times people with diabetes, what'll end up going if they've had diabetes for a long time is their feet. Their feet get kind of looking. Well, it makes sense if you look about it, because we spend a lot of time standing in our lives. That's a lot of pressure being exerted on our feet and on the vessels in our feet. Well, if they're fragile to begin with because they've been kind of broken in places, you're going to get, the cells that make up your skin and feet and everything else are not going to get nourished if the blood vessels are broken. That's why you kind of see some people with diabetes have kind of, sometimes they even need to get amputated feet or toes. That's been pretty common. Someone told me about that in the other class. Very common to get them amputated. But anyway, that's why. And there's other complications of diabetes because it's tied into a lot of other systems. But that's kind of the gist. We talked also about the liver and how important the liver is and all the jobs it does. Today, I want to talk about two things. I actually want to talk about, I want to give you some background into some types of tissues. I don't think we've covered those yet. That won't take long. And then I actually want to start talking about the skeletal system. And by the end of the class, I'm going to have you guys basically work in groups trying to make sure everybody else in your group knows every bone of the body. That's really important. That's kind of the main goal of today. So let's get started. Let me do a few things here. Whoops. Okay, you guys have seen this before, and you know it, and it's pretty straightforward. Cell, basic unit of life. You mix a bunch of different types of cells together, that makes up tissues. You put a bunch of different types of tissues together, you got yourself an organ. You combine a certain number of organs together, you got yourself an organ system. Okay, let me give you an example of each of these. Okay. You have some cells called cardiac cells that make up your heart, by the way. That would be an example of cells, cardiac cells. Tissues. A bunch of cardiac cells mixed together with some other type of cells makes up muscle tissue. So muscle tissue is an example of a tissue type. The heart would be considered the organ that contains muscle tissue. And the organ system would be like the cardiovascular. Oops, I'm going to run out of room. The cardiovascular system would be the system that's kind of here. And that would consist of the system, the organ system would be the heart, the blood vessels. Those would be the main parts of the cardiovascular system. So I just gave you kind of an example of each of these each of these kind of organization, these ways you organize the human body. Okay, here's what I want to go into. You know, tissue. You don't really know much about tissues. There's actually 4 tissue types I want to talk about real briefly. 4 tissue types that make up the human body. The first one is called epithelial tissue. Okay, epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue has the job of lining, so it lines the inside and outside of your organs and your body. Think of epithelial tissue as like saran wrap, wrapping around something. You can think of your skin like saran wrap. It's wrapping around your whole body. That's epithelial tissue. But you also have epithelial tissue. Every one of your organs, like your stomach, is wrapped in this epithelial tissue. It's like a covering. It has a job, you know, it does some protection, yeah, but really it's there to kind of act like to kind of nourish the cells, to kind of provide like a transport between the one part and the other part in the inside. It nourishes kind of the other cells on the inside, and it does some protecting. So example, your skin and your lining of your stomach, for example, are examples of places you find epithelial tissue, but there's others. Okay. The second type of tissue that you find in your body is called connective tissue. Connective tissue, connective tissue. Okay, well, hence the name. This type of tissue has the job of connecting and supporting body parts. So connects and supports body parts. Okay, here's the deal. Let's say I took Lex over there and somehow we were able to eliminate all the connective tissue out of her body. First of all, it wouldn't be good. Okay, but second of all, there's a number of things that would happen that we would eliminate. If we took out her connective tissue, we would be removing all of that tissue that kind of keeps your organs sort of glued in place. So one thing that would happen is her organs would just like, if she's walking down, her organs would just be flip-flopping all inside of her, like you wouldn't believe. Okay, so it acts like glue in a way. But the other thing we'd be removing is her blood. Blood is a connective tissue, which is weird. You don't think of blood as being a connective tissue. It doesn't, it's a different type. Well, if you think about what blood is made up of a bunch of different types of cells. Remember up here? A bunch of different types of cells make up a tissue. Blood is made up of white blood cells, red blood cells, platelets, a bunch of different types of cells. So it's a tissue. Blood's a tissue. Believe it or not, fat is a tissue. It'd be nice to actually eliminate some of the fat. Out of my body, at least. All right. Fat's a connective tissue, huh?
You don't have any fat?
Yeah, some of you guys, yeah. You guys are all young and, you know.
I have a lot of fat.
Bone. Bone. You don't think of bones as connective tissue. Bone is a connective tissue. Believe it or not, it's made up of a variety of different types of cells. Okay, so, but again, also connective tissue is, when we do some dissections here in the next few days, or actually for now until the end of the year, I'm going to put this in parentheses. When you open up an organism and you see a lot of like whitish, stringy material, I'm just going to say white, stringy, it almost is like, I hate saying like that silly string stuff, but in a way it kind of looks like white silly string because it's kind of stretchy and white.
Jeez.
And that's what it kind of, it's just, that's what connective tissue is, like visually. But it's also fat, bone, and blood. Okay. Nervous tissue. Another type of tissue, nervous tissue. The job of nervous tissue is to send and receive messages. That's the job of your nerves. Send and receive messages. You guys, believe it or not, have a bunch of electrical signals getting sent through you right now. That's how your nervous system works. That's how your nervous tissue works. Huh?
My nervous tissue tell me not to.
Actually, you guys are writing because your nerves are actually firing more than you think. I swear.
Stop firing.
Hey, by the way,
Fire nerves.
this type of tissue is the type that sends and receives messages. I actually am not going to go into much more detail about that. And muscle tissue is the other type that I know you guys know about too. Muscle tissue has the big job of providing movement. Okay, obviously. You actually have two different types of muscle tissue. You actually have three types. Okay. You have skeletal muscle tissue, oops, you have smooth muscle tissue, and you have cardiac muscle tissue. Okay, here's the difference. When you guys think of a muscle, like when you guys think of your bicep or your quad or whatever, so those kind of muscles that typically come to mind when you think of muscles, those are skeletal muscles. Those I'm going to call voluntary. Those are ones you can control. If I want to move my arm muscle, bicep, I can do it. If I want to move the other muscle, I can move that. These are the muscles that you can control. Keep in mind, there's a lot of muscles in your body that you have no control over. Okay, there is actually smooth and cardiac are both involuntary. You can't control when they contract and expand. That's the job of your nervous system to do that.
You can tell my heart to stop.
Okay. We will go into a little more detail about actually where those are found when we talk about the muscular system. For now, well, cardiac heart, your heart. That's a perfect example. You can't, the work of your cardiac muscles under the control of your nervous system. You guys can't just sit there and really say, okay, heart, beat again, beat again. You can't.
I'd get bored soon.
Yeah, you would. Well, you're lucky. You're lucky you don't have to think about it. Otherwise, you spend all day going, okay, beat, okay, beat, okay, beat. You want something else to control it. You know? So anyway.
I would wait till my face is purple about that beat.
You don't like what?
Until you can't tell.
Hey, remember, nervous tissue and muscle tissue, you're born with what you get. You can't, those can't be replaced. They can be sort of rearranged, but they can't be replaced. When your cardiac cells, like if you have a heart attack, when people have heart attacks, what actually a heart attack is you have a patch of cells that die on your heart. They die because the blood vessels that are supplying the nutrients to those cells typically get blocked by eating crappy food or something. So those patch of cells die. Well, all of the cells of your heart need to act in unison together. They're all tightly packed together and they carry electrical impulses through the whole heart. That's what causes it to beat at the same rhythm. If you have a patch of cells that is dead in your heart, it's going to mess up the rhythm. If that patch of cells is going to act like it's just going to mess up the rhythm. It's going to be like, wait a minute, it's not in sync with the rest of the heart. It causes your heart to get like, we don't know what we're doing. That's a heart attack. Okay, it totally gets gets out of whack. So no, once and then this is why after people who have a heart attack, I don't know if any of you have known anybody. Once they've had one, the cells will never get better. They typically have to take medicine or some kind of medication or shots for the rest of their life to compensate for that patch of cells on their heart that are gone. So they think that's kind of no. So muscle tissue once it's gone, it's gone. So heart attacks typically, I guess you never can fully recover from a heart attack really. Other parts of your heart can compensate, but really you never fully recover. It's kind of because of these reasons, because those cells will never reform again, kind of deal. Same with nervous tissue. Spinal cord injuries, when you hear of accidents where people have nerve damage, spinal cord injuries, typically it's permanent unless it's not that bad for the same reason, because nerve cells can't just regrow more of themselves. They can't do that. It's just the way the human body's made. These other two can. We lose, millions of skin cells every day, and they every 7 days you get a new layer of skin. Those replace themselves just fine. So, all right. Anyway, skeletal system, the fun stuff. The fun stuff.
I thought we were already going over the fun stuff.
Huh?
I thought we were already going over the fun stuff.
Pretty sure you said that yesterday.
It's all fun.
They're gonna hate it.
Oh, yeah.
No, but it's all fun. Yes, we had it.
Keep saying that.
It's a blast.
It
Look
is.
at this.
It's like riding roller coasters.
I know.
Let's go. What are we talking about?
Well,
Science.
Let's do this.
Oh, you're a little girl.
I can't remember if I told you this or not, guys, but are we familiar with all of these systems? Have I gone over this with you yet?
Packet.
It's in the packet. You have that.
I know
Make
nerve.
sure.
I know nerve and muscle. And skeletal.
I know my heart is.
No, we went over this because didn't I tell you we were talking about the lymphatic system and we were talking about that disorder elephantitis that can form?
No,
We didn't talk about this? Oh, it's cool.
we didn't go
Okay.
over any of this.
Let's go over this briefly. This won't take long. You have this packet. Bring it out. Bring it out. Yeah, you do.
No, we don't.
Here. Okay, raise your hand. I only have like 2 left. Oh, good. Good deal. Okay. We will not have a chance to cover all these systems, but I do want you to know the general basics of each of them. Let's run through them really quick. We will probably not get to the nervous system, consisting of your brain, spinal cord, and nerves, which is too bad, because this is probably the system that actually controls every other system. Huh?
So I got some of those damaged.
Your nerves? Are they? Is it still numb there?
Yeah, I can feel it.
Okay. When did that happen again?
Smash with the hammer.
How long ago?
4 weeks ago.
Okay. Okay.
They used to play games that could like
I like it though. I can't feel it.
break people's arms and then cut off the nervous circulation, and it would like tell you. It was fun.
You guys are weird. Okay. Well, nerves are funny. I will say one thing that's optimistic though. So Derek, you're not, totally out of luck. Nerves,
Yeah, you are.
nerve cells are long and thin. So imagine that's a nerve cell. Imagine that's a nerve cell. Imagine that's a nerve cell. I think I told you this, guys, before.
I'm not sure.
Okay, if I did.
Yesterday.
Your nerve cells act in bundles. They kind of work in a line here. They act like a telephone wire, sending messages from one part of your body to the other. And obviously, you don't have any feeling in your hand because what you probably did is like break some of those nerves.
Way to go.
Now, here's the good thing that can happen, and here's what usually happens. Unless the injury is horrific, like a very bad accident where you sever your spinal cord. A lot of like nerve damage can, even though you can't grow any new nerve cells, but a lot of times those nerve cells will kind of grow new extensions from them and kind of make the seal, reconnect it. It's like rewiring themselves.
So can I like go and stab him in the hand and you won't feel it?
That'd
No.
be cool.
I'm serious because he's got bones sticking out of his hands and he's not
Well, you've gone to the doctor, right? And
No.
They told me he needed a cast and he took it
Well,
off
I
the
did
next
go,
day.
and they said it was broke, but all the bones were still in the same spot the way I had it wrapped up.
They said to keep it right
They said they told me to keep it wrapped up, so I couldn't do it all. And then one day,
Then like 3 days later, he was pulling a stone with us.
I couldn't feel it, so I took the wrap off.
So I can stab you in the hand and you won't feel
all
it.
right. Oy, oy, oy.
Smash it.
The functions, nervous system, recognize and coordinate body's response to changes in internal and external environments. All right, it's one of the most important systems. When you are, let's say there was something really hot placed here on the table, but I didn't see it, and I went over here and I went like this. Okay, I'm not looking at it. I have nerves everywhere, running through everywhere. I have a lot of nerves in the ends of my fingers. Well, those nerves are going to pick up the signal, send it to my brain, fast because they're long and skinny like that. That's why they can move the signals can move so fast. Then they're going to the message will be sent down other nerves to make me move my hand. It's amazing how fast this all takes place. Well, you guys have been there. It's almost like a reflex in some ways when you touch something and it's so quick. It's just amazing how fast messages can get sent through your nervous system. Your nervous system does more than help you think. Everybody thinks of your brain as like, oh, it helps me think. No, your nervous system also controls the rate of your breathing, the opening and closing of your blood vessels, the movement of my muscles. I mean, everything. Your nervous system controls absolutely everything. Your nervous system even controls, believe it or not, when your hormones are made and produced and sent somewhere.
Would that be like when you get scared?
Absolutely. You have some glands sitting on top of your kidneys called adrenal glands. Adrenaline, that's where they get the name from. Those, when you get scared, it's going to send a message to those glands to pump out some serious epinephrine hormone.
I like swing automatically. Like it's just reflex, just punch.
What it is weird, but the nervous system does more than you think. It's not just for thinking; it's actually for everything. Integumentary. This might be one that you've not heard of before, but you know what it is. It's they use the word integumentary when they're talking about skin, hair, and nails and the glands. There's more to your skin than what you think. We'll talk about that this chapter. Your skin's actually, and I think you guys even saw the picture. There's a lot of stuff in skin. That's all part of your integumentary system. Okay, your immune system. Okay, you have a lot of organs in your body that keep you healthy. These include your thymus, your spleen, and your lymph nodes. You might have heard of those. You'll feel them. You have a lot of these lymph nodes in certain, they kind of they're all over, but they're more concentrated in certain areas.
Don't they swell up?
Yep. And when it swells up, it's a good thing. You have a bunch of lymph nodes in here, and their job is to capture bacteria and take it out, basically. Well, if they get filled, that means they're taking out a lot of bacteria. That's good. That means they're doing their job. But it can kind of freak people out when you get swollen, when you get a swollen neck or something. But that's basically your lymph nodes destroying bacteria. If you've ever gotten like a bump behind your ear that you didn't know where it came from, sometimes you have some of these lymph nodes right behind your ear. My daughter has one. It's like a bump. She was all freaked out. And the doctor said, no, it's just a lymph node back there that got swollen. She must have had a cold or something, and that's kind of it. You have a lot of these lymph nodes, actually, believe it or not, which is weird, kind of in your groin area too. So, or in your armpit area. So sometimes you'll get like pain or bumps in those areas as well. Human body's gross.
Like, why would you get them in your groin though? Like, I felt it before. Like, I cut one time in football, and then I was like rubbing it, and I could feel like a ball moving around every time I rubbed it.
Okay, did it go away in time?
It went away.
Yeah. It's weird. They seem to concentrate themselves. You could barely see it on this picture, but if you look like right in that area on yours, you'll see like this concentrated of these little, like larger greenish areas. I don't know. It's hard to see here. Anyway, by the way, lymphatic system. People don't usually hear of that word, but if you look closely at your lymphatic system is a vessel system. Vessels. It looks like your blood system, but it's not. It's totally separate from your circulatory system. It's a whole completely a new different set of vessels. Your blood vessels like to leak. Your lymphatic system better be there to clean up the mess. If it didn't, we'd all look like the Michelin Man. You guys know what I'm talking about when I say the Michelin Man?
Yeah.
Okay. We would all be puffy.
Big marshmallow.
Yeah, the big marshmallow dude, the white kind of puffy dude. If we didn't have our lymphatic system, we would look like this. Some people have disorders where their lymphatic system doesn't work right and fluids build up inside of them. Now, this is the unfortunate thing. We spend a lot of time standing, and typically the areas that the fluid pulls to are the legs. So a lot of times people who have lymphatic system disorders, their legs will look big. Now, we're talking like big kind of deal. So disorder, it's called elephantitis, disorder of the lymphatic system. Muscular system, you guys know about that. Circulatory system, we'll most likely cover that. This is of vessels. It doesn't just move blood. It doesn't just move blood. You want everything traveling through your blood. You want glucose. You want hormones. You want salts. You want everything that every one of your cells needs or produces as waste has to travel in your circulatory system. Instead of thinking of your circulatory system as moving blood, think of it as like moving, everything. It's just a transportation system for absolutely everything in your body. Skeletal system, we'll get to in a minute. Respiratory system, that's easy. Digestive system, easy. Excretory system, you got that. Endocrine. This might be another one you might not be very familiar with. When I think of the word endocrine, I think of the word hormone. This is the system in your body that produces all of your hormones. Okay, hormones control lots of things, guys. Not just reproductive cycle stuff. Everything, lots of other stuff. You have hormones for lots of reasons. You have hormones for, like we were talking about, adrenaline. You know, those kind of hormones that basically get you ready for a fight or flight is what they're called. You have fight or flight hormones. Ones that'll get you basically get the ones that do that. Okay. You have other hormones that are there for digestive purposes to help you break down food. Believe it or not, that are released to signal things to get digested. All right, and reproductive system, and we won't touch that one because I think you guys have that in health class. So anyway, make sure you know. Oh,
We didn't.
My class,
is that the class of 2 that you guys had or whatever?
It was 3 half the year.
It was 3 until Jerry went back to jail.
It was 3 for 9 weeks till Terry went back to jail.
Yeah.
It's his fault, not
I
mine.
think it's like fun or something. I wouldn't think it's fun.
Yeah. Okay, finally, I'm almost done. Here's the deal, guys. Gotta know these bones. Gotta know these bones, and then I'm done talking. Let me run through them quickly. Again, if you had Miss Fisher, I understand that's easy. Okay. Skull, easy.
Arms,
Your bone that is right here, that you can feel, your collarbone,
clavicle.
called your clavicle.
I
Someone break it?
I broke his collarbone. We were fighting over a football, and I picked him up and threw him, and bam. And then
Who, him?
Yeah, then he sits there and pokes it. Is it okay? Is it
I was
okay?
telling him to get up. I was like 4th or 5th grade.
Okay, so everybody has to remember that Tyler broke Derek's clavicle.
Collarbone. Break
Go
someone's
clavicle. Clavicle.
What's the difference?
It's the same, but I want you to know it is clavicle.
See? No difference.
It's more scientific.
I'm not a
Okay.
scientific guy.
Collarbone works just fine.
Scapula is like this flattened bone that also makes up your shoulder area. It's like a flattened bone you feel back here. Okay, it's
Did you
flat.
like hurt that?
I don't hear of.
Let her.
You hear more broken collarbones than you do broken scapulas. But did you break one of those on anybody? Okay. All right. Arms. You have one bone in your top of your arm called the humerus. Humerus. I don't know if that's where the funny bone comes from. But that's how you can remember it.
It's right there.
You have 2 bones in the bottom part of your arm. The one that is connected to your thumb is called the radius, and
That's
you
what I
can
broke.
move that. Did you break your radius?
I broke both of them.
Did you really?
Yeah,
He got scars.
he's a beast.
Listen, no, go up to him and let
Yeah,
him go
'cause
like this
when I
and
looked
listen to
over,
it.
when I looked over, his arm was dangling.
Let me see. Did you actually have surgery?
Don't
Is that what that?
La la la. I don't hear no cracking noise.
No, let him go like this. You can hear the metal in it.
Do you really? I want to hear it.
No!
I'm serious. Oh wow,
I can hear
It's disgusting.
it's sweet.
I can't do it with this, Red.
He wrecked the 4-wheeler, and I was with him. I looked over, and his arm just dangling there.
I was telling you, my fingers were touching the
Oh,
arm.
did you actually have a bone sticking out?
They were close.
They were close.
Anyway, wow. Anyway, so you got your radius and your
It's a
ulna.
4-wheeler.
Radius and your ulna. So Jordan has broken both. By the way, like I said, the radius is the one that you can actually is connected to your thumb that you actually can move around in the radius. Math, little math
If you
there.
want puked on, sure, go ahead and show me it.
Okay, carpals, metacarpals, phalange. Because when you're driving a
Fingers
car,
and
your
palms.
hand touches the car steering wheel. That kind of deal. Vertebral column, vertebrae. Hey, keep in mind, your vertebrae is referring to the bones. Your spinal cord runs in the inside of your vertebrae. That's part of your nervous system.
What's your butt bone called?
Your butt bone is actually it's at the bottom. Usually the butt bone that you feel is actually is the bottom part of your vertebrae down here. This is like typically your butt bone. You're not really feeling your pelvis.
Tailbone.
It's a tailbone. Your tailbone is the bottom part of your vertebrae. Yeah, it's called the coccyx. It's a weird name. Okay. Pelvis. Women have a wider pelvis.
Yeah.
Men's pelvis is kind of, their bones kind of stay up. Women's are kind of like out there like a butterfly. Legs. Femur. Big, giant femur. Probably, I think this is the thickest bone.
Strongest bone in your body.
Yeah, it might be the strongest and thickest. Hey,
Oh,
remember that video I showed you yesterday?
Whatever.
What are the 2 bones? Tibia and the fibula that the guy broke. Ooh, we saw a cool picture. We saw a still shot
And
photo.
his bone sticking out.
His bone was that was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen from that Louisville guy. You saw it too?
Let's see it.
I don't know if it was on my screen. I showed the other class. But
I can pull it up on Twitter for you.
yeah, maybe we'll do that here in a minute. You guys do have to see that. Okay, so know that. Then your tarsals, metatarsals, phalanges. Here's what I want you guys to do. I want you guys for the next 5 or 10 minutes to get just with the tables around you. Okay, and I want you guys to make sure that everybody else in your group knows every bone in the body. And we'll show that picture here too.
Do you want them just to know,
It'll be probably part of the
pelvis, or do you want them to know the different parts of the pelvis?